Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's PACE webinar. We have an exciting topic today, how to build a real revenue growth machine in the age of artificial intelligence, AI. So certainly a very timely topic, and I'm sure we're all going to learn a lot. Today, in this webinar, we have two great speakers, Maciej Kurc, who's an expert in revenue growth management and net revenue management, with a focus on the FMCG and CPG industry, and also Ruben Garcia, who's an independent consultant specializing in revenue management and negotiations for the FMCG industry. For those of you not familiar with PACE, we're the Profitability Analytics Center of Excellence. It's a group of volunteers dedicated to helping organizations make better, more informed decisions by employing causal models and data analytics as described in PACE's Profitability Analytics Framework. If you'd like to become a member of PACE, I encourage you to do so. It's free. You'll get access to all of our other webinars, podcasts, articles, and a whole host of other resources. Just go to profitability-analytics.org and sign up. So a little bit of housekeeping here. If you'd like to receive CPE credit for today's session, remember, you have to attend at least 50 minutes of today's presentation and answer the 3 polling questions. The session is being recorded, so please keep your camera off and your microphone muted until the Q&A session. Questions will be welcomed, but just type them in the chat box, and I will be asking the speakers your questions at the end of their presentation. So having said that, over to you, Maciej and Ruben.
Thank you, Raf and Toby, for inviting us to this webinar and to talk to your audience. And profitability is also at the heart of what Ruben and me we do, and is at the heart of revenue growth management. So we try to inspire you with these topics, and then to explain a little bit how we do it in the FMCG world, or at least how the best ones are doing it, and then what we help our clients to do as well. So that's yeah. So welcome to this webinar, and then which is about sustainable profitable growth. And the growth is very difficult today for many companies. So that's what we'll talk about, how to do it by fixing the foundations. And foundations we define as processes, organization, and people. And why it is important? Because even with the fast development of AI, which is happening now, and technology, it is still about people, and it's still going to be about people for the next few years. So we are broadcasting from Barcelona, Spain, which is where Ruben is, and I'm broadcasting from Stockholm in Sweden. And as Ref mentioned, this webinar is recorded, so you can watch it also later to remind yourself. Okay, very good. So we go next. Good. So this webinar is based on our extensive experience within consumer products. However, it's relevant not only for the fast-moving consumer goods or consumer packaged goods. You will hear it quite often today, FMCG, so fast-moving consumer goods, and CPG, consumer packaged goods, as we call it. But also this is relevant for other industries and companies which operate which simply sell products to humans, so business to consumers, you can say. So it's relevant for apparel, for consumer electronics, or small home appliances. And obviously, this is also very good inspiration as a case study for companies from other industries, because it's always useful to look at, okay, how others do it. Can we learn something from that? Because there are some principles that go across businesses as well. Okay, so what will happen is that we will shortly introduce ourselves. Then we'll talk about the foundations of RGM, so Revenue Growth Management, RGM. And then we'll have this 10 minutes at the end to answer your questions. So please do write your questions during our presentation, and then we'll come back to them. And if we don't manage, then we'll come back to you directly after this webinar. And we have a little bonus for you as well, as we normally do. So those who participate today and those who watch it within the next week, you can contact us, and then we have a little bonus. And please stay tuned till the end, and you will know what it is. You will find out. Okay, so what you will learn today is, number one, what are the 5 biggest RGM mistakes? And here we focus on the enablers. Number 2, why and how to embed RGM into key commercial processes, for example, commercial planning. Number 3, our view on how to build an RGM organization that actually can support growth and profitability. And finally, number 4, what skills and mindset are needed to make RGM work, and also where to find them. So hopefully that resonates with what you're expecting from today's sessions. So please stay tuned, and we now introduce briefly ourselves. Many of you, I'm sure, know us already, but those who don't, we just briefly recap. So I am Maciej. I work with revenue growth management for over 19 years now. I did it within various industries, multiple product categories in various countries all over the globe. And by far, most of my experience is coming within consumer goods, and one way or the other within the retail, but also food service, as we call it, HoReCa, and convenience channels, and a little bit of e-commerce. I worked as a head of RGM, so head of revenue growth management. I was a business development director, and I was also a sales director. In all these roles, I used RGM actively, and I've seen RGM from different perspectives, as you can see. So I understand the benefits, and I've seen the benefits of RGM, which came via my own hands and my team's hands. But also understand the challenges of implementing it in real life, because it's not so easy. And these challenges are actually some of the key ones we are going to cover today. Now, for the last 5 years, I've been working as an independent advisor within RGM space. So I help companies like yours, and we try to always to take the RGM to the next level, regardless of where you are today. And I'm happy to share, obviously, my experience and expertise with you together with Ruben. So, Ruben, back to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Maciej. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruben, and I am fundamentally, I would say a true RGM expert too, as Maciej. Now, why do I say that? Well, in my case, I've been working really non-stop and fully dedicated to RGM for the last 16 years. 11 of them as an independent consultant, as Raf was mentioning, but also 5 before that, 5 as revenue management director at PepsiCo Europe. Now, as you would imagine, I mean, during all this time, I have really worked on all areas of RGM, both from revenue optimization standpoint, but also from a capability building perspective. You name it. Now, but also equally important in the context of what I'm doing today are my 11 years out of the 16 years in PepsiCo of operating experience in the commercial area of PepsiCo Snacks Spain, where I started as a national key account manager in modern trade and ended as trade development director, covering all channels. Now, this very intense corporate operating, it was really very intense operating experience is important. Why is it important? Because it has really, really had a decisive influence on my approach to consulting. Basically, to make it simple, I always, as Maciej does, keep in mind that recommendations at the end of the day are worthless if they are not implemented. So always obsessed with making sure, trying to make sure at least that things are implementable and then are actually implemented. Okay, so this was us in a nutshell. Now let's start with the actual webinar, which is focusing on capabilities.
Very good, excellent. Thank you, Ruben. Yeah, so that's so now we have a poll, and we have 3 of those. So we'd like to understand a little bit. So what are the key creation issues? So we talk about issues of your company, of your companies, and companies that you are very close to. If you don't work for like a specific company, then at least what the companies you think what issues they have today, and you can choose only one of those. So it's number 1 is about top line growth, and here we talk about the volume. So it could be liters, it could be units, it could be kilos, whatever measure you use it in your business. Then you have a margin, which is often percentage, but it could be also margin in terms of per liter, per kilo, or per unit. It depends on the unit, probably not, but per one of the measure, which is unified figure. And then you have a bottom line growth, which is the absolute figure, EBIT. So you can choose one of those, and then if your business has got issues with all of those, then there is a one on the bottom, which is all of this above. So please, make you a choice. So we'll be happy. We'd like to see you. where a company is.
So I'm sharing the results of the poll, and it's tied between top line growth and all of the above.
Okay. Okay. Yes, good. So what do you think, Ruben?
Well, it's interesting because I think it is basically top line growth, isn't it?
Not necessarily. Yeah. What do you mean?
Okay, fine. No, okay, fine. It is top line growth. This is the one which has been mentioned as a distinct, let's say, issue. But then obviously it's for the rest, it's a combination of the different things. No? But it's interesting to see that none of the other tools, let's say, distinct potential issues have been mentioned at all. No?
I think it's also a little bit. Obviously, this is not the same. It's not statistically statistically correct, but at least it tells a little bit about how at least those who answered how it is at the businesses. And we actually see that it's a bit more focused today on the top line growth, actually. So simply the growth is the issue because of the categories decline, because of the inflation, trade tariffs, and you name it. So that's one of the big issues of many companies. And then as we also see, some of them answer that all of the above, which is which is often a problem for the companies which we help with, actually. So we sometimes, So then all the issues actually are in place. So
maybe let me build on that, Maciej, because actually those companies where top line growth is the number one issue, if they deliver against this issue, but they sacrifice too much margin, or or the bottom line doesn't look nice, then immediately those KPIs will come into the equation. So there's a little bit also of moving. So but again, I would say that probably people who have answered all of the above are actually aware of this. In the short term, maybe there's something, but at the end of the day, you want to do everything at the same time, right? Very often, and this is what is reflected by the other half of the answers, I would say.
And also the reason why we ask this question is also a little bit of warm up to this, because RGM is often there's a misconception about RGM that it's only about margin, or it's about the bottom line, the profit, and all that. It's actually not, because RGM is a revenue growth management. So it's about growth. So it's about creating growth. It's about creating profitable growth, but also it's very flexible in a sense that if you have a top line issue, then you use more of the top line tools to create growth. If you have the bottom line issue, then or margin issue, then you use this. It's not black and white in this sense. So, because in many respects today, especially there are companies that have issues with growth, and we say yes, of course, revenue growth management has got tools for that. You just look at different areas. So maybe not the margin focused areas, like maybe not necessarily ROI only, but some other KPIs there.
At the end of the day, what we also say very often is, look, focusing just on volume, if you don't care about profitability, is very easy, right? But what revenue growth management can do is actually make the volume focus as efficient as possible, right? And the other way around, exactly the same. If you only care about your profitability and don't care about the volume, this is also easy, right? But if you want to balance things, like in the first case and the second case, then RGM will hopefully help you to, improve your profitability, but minimizing the volume, if you want, price or volume loss associated to that. So that's in practice actually how RGM works in most companies.
Okay, very good. So we got the next one then. Thank you. Okay, good. So now I think it's important is also why this webinar, why the title of this webinar, and then the picture which we have there about the future and AI. I think it's quite relevant because, I mean, here are some three figures. It's 80, 62, 95. Okay, so what are these figures? Yeah, okay, good. We will reveal it now. So we say that actually 80% of the CEOs today tell that they are not satisfied with the revenue growth management operations. And this is even after many years of investing in that, which shows that there is obviously a potential for companies or people like Ruben and me, which is great. And then this was answered to this study was done by one of the big consulting houses, so maybe they these companies should actually work with us instead. Okay, joking aside. Okay, good. But then anyway, I mean, there's an improvement area within RGM, and RGM is about continuous improvement, so that's good. So the next one, 62% of there's another study of the commercial executives tell us during this study that they're going to improve the RGMs with investing into systems, so it's tools. And then many of those, which is 75% of those, will be actually AI based. So many of those systems, will be actually AI based. Now, we also know recently there was a study made by MIT, which shows that 95% of AI implementations actually don't deliver ROI. It's only 5% of those projects which they studied delivered tangible return on growth and bottom line. Okay, so what this means basically is that there will be many companies that want to invest in RGMs, and they will invest in the AI systems, tools and AI systems, but unfortunately many of them will fail. And the reason for the failures is basically very often about the topic of today. It's about the foundations. It's about lack of processes. It's about lack of challenges, lack of adoption, lots of lack of improvement and capabilities. And that's what we are actually going to talk about today. So if you want to be in this 5% of those that actually succeed within implementation of RGM tools or AI systems, then I think this is something to focus on. Okay, good. So we go further. Now, also to help a little bit to structure the thinking is we have this simple matrix, which is looking on the vertical side, which is the maturity of RGM, and maturity of RGM, which is defined by people, capabilities, processes, KPIs. And on the horizontal line, you have data availability and insights. Good. So if you take, for example, a box number 1, which is in the lower left corner. So in this case, we don't see there is a big need for AI in this solution or in this situation, or big need for some complex RGM tools, because this company is not ready. You could say they don't have processes in place, they don't have capabilities. So even if they get a system or tool, they will not know really how to benefit from that. At the same time, they don't have data to work with. So, and a good AI tool or good RGM system, RGM tool needs data in order to give good insights, good results. So that's why in this case we would say, okay, don't use AI, don't use any tools, rather focus on the foundation. So, and if you go to the box number 2, it's a similar situation, but it's about the company that actually has data and insights, but it's not really skilled. I mean, it's not really using it in a good way. There are so many companies like this. Actually, we meet. So in this case, we also advise them to build up their capabilities first, to build up their processes, and then before actually investing in heavily in AI tools or just simply RGM tools. Okay, so today, as you see, today we are talking about situations of the companies which are in the box number 1 and 2, because we see actually most of the companies actually are there today. So that's why it's relevant. Okay, so we go to the next one.
Okay, good. So just a brief reminder of, let's say, the overarching RGM framework. The question here would be, before we get into, again, the capabilities and so on, what is actually RGM? Yeah, we have talked a little bit about it in the beginning. But well, I mean, when we ask people this question, they very often think or talk about, actually what they talk about is the blue boxes you see on those slides. So they're talking about, what we call the RGM levers. Yeah, this is what they're basically thinking of. Now, the thing is that if you think, as we do, that RGM is actually a cross-functional approach to managing your business for sustained value creation, you actually need to go beyond that hard. Yeah. Now, on one hand, the business needs to have defined a solid value growth vision, as we call it. Now, this growth vision should describe what strategic initiatives the business will deploy moving forward as to create value for whom? Well, for the key stakeholders, for consumers, for your clients, and obviously, last but not least, for the company, right? Now, today we will not further elaborate on this element, but as an illustration of what we are talking about, just as an illustration, this vision should explain, for example, how you're planning to enhance the perceived value of your offering to consumers, at the perceived value, and what resources will be required to do so over the next 3 to 5 years. So in essence, this value growth vision should provide the broader, let's say, business context, value creation business context, and guidance for your RGM lever optimization efforts, which again are at the heart, obviously, of what RGM is about. On the other hand, and this is what we're going to focus, where we're actually focusing on in today's webinar, embedding the RGM approach, this approach we're talking about all the time in your organization, means that you will typically need to change the ways of working and acquire, or at least update, certain capabilities. One example of this could be promo optimization. Just one example. Yes, with the support of Excels, you can certainly start optimizing the return of investment of your promotions. By what? By creating, or helping you, they will, by creating solid promo guide rails, to be considered when building the detailed promo calendars in each of the clients. Now, to do this, you can do with Excel, right? Typically. But if you want to really fully optimize the return of investment of your promotions, you will very often need a systems integrated, eventually artificial intelligence supported promo management tool to make it happen. Now, why that? Because as probably most of you know, given, well, this is quite complex, right? And given the complexities of promotional activity, you just need such a solution to enable what? To enable a solid, but agile at the same time, promo plan do review process, which delivers sustained return of investment optimization on one end, but also without compromising other KPIs and objectives. So focusing on the RGM org enablers should always be a fundamental part of any RGM journey. And this is why we are focusing today on this element of what we're talking about. But before we further elaborate, we would like to run another quick poll to understand what you think are the lever priorities in your business.
Good. Okay, so we have on the screen, so which of those levers which Ruben was just talking about are mainly used? So this is the key word here is mainly, because obviously I mean, in many cases, use all of them as we see it normally in the real life. But then you can choose the ones which you prioritize today. So you can choose max 3, so 2, 3 choose, and this is a multiple choice. So is the price optimization, is the pack price architecture, is the promotion optimization, is it assortment or mix management, sometimes called, or is it trade terms? It's a discounts, rebates, and so on and so forth. So please answer now, and let's see. Okay, so what do we see? Okay, okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, and this is also what we often see. The price, it's often number 1, and the promotion number 2, and then you have assortment, pack, and no one is doing the trade terms actually. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
very good. Okay,
quite consistent.
This was a good one, because it's true that we always say, or often say, that if you don't know much about RGM and you want to just start the journey, then it's a good way to start with the pricing, because often pricing is the, you could say, the most powerful lever, even though of course it's difficult, but it's the most powerful lever to look into. So you link your pricing into more value pricing, so how your products are perceived, and you can get much value out of that, looking also at the elasticities and so on and so forth. So this one is a good one. Then promotion management, as many companies are spending so much money on promotions, on price promotions or trade promotions, it's always just making even small improvements. It's a lot of money. But then obviously, as Ruben mentioned, it's much more complicated. But recently we see companies moving towards mix management and pack price architecture, because those areas are really interesting, especially in cases if you need more growth and profitable growth. Yeah. So what do you think, Ruben?
Yeah, again, very consistent, let's say, pattern of answers against what we typically see. I mean, no surprise, I would say here, really.
Yeah. But this also shows that there is a huge potential actually for many of the companies within the pack price architecture and actually mix management, because you can gain a lot in those areas actually. Okay, good. Maybe we should do webinars about those two, Ruben, next time. Okay, good. Let's go.
Think about it.
Okay, good. We go further down. Okay, good. So for those who participated in some of our previous webinars, you might remember our ideal process to set up revenue growth management to make your company into a profitable growth machine. So here's just a quick recap, and we bring it up because we believe it's very important. So that's why it's good to talk about it again. And obviously today with the different focus, with different, you could say, different priority. Because we know, and those who tried it know, that it takes time to build proper revenue growth management in the organization. It can take 10 to 15 years. I mean, we know the company, and we even work at the companies that I mean, it took many years to actually set it up. But 10 and 15 years, it's a bit long, and it's way too long. It doesn't have to take so long time. So that's why, if you have a choice and you have resources and possibility, and you can do it in the right way, we would recommend to do it this way, because it will make it faster, even though it seems slow, but actually it will make it faster. Because unfortunately, Ruben, yeah, and me, we think unfortunately there's no shortcuts, and there is no wormholes which you can jump to the future through. Sorry to say that. I think unfortunately some things needs to be in place first. Okay, good. So number one, you start with a growth strategy that is based on a proper understanding of your current state. So where you are in, how is your market, how is your situation, where you make money, where you don't, what is growing, what is declining, and also the future development. So you have a clear view about, okay, well, at least you have a good assumption about, okay, so how the market will evolve and how you will evolve if you follow the trends which you do. Then the growth strategy needs to also indicate which customers you're going to grow value with, which consumers, and also how the value will come to you. Okay, step number two, based on the strategy, you need to make sure that there is you have KPIs and incentives in the organization. You might be a bit surprised to hear, but actually there are many companies that don't have KPI system, incentive system, which is actually connected to the strategy. It actually happens quite often, and there are good and bad reasons for that. Step number three, then you set up your RGM organization, and you make sure that you have capabilities in place to deliver on the KPIs and on the strategy. Step number four, after that, you make sure that organization has the right data, has tools, can use AI in a good, efficient way, and most importantly, is able and can extract insights and make out of the insights good business recommendations. And last thing, very important as well, you make sure that you have this continuous loop, because RGM, just like anything in the business, it's about continuous improvement. I mean, you're never over, because there are new things on the market, new technology happening. I mean, changes in the organization, companies merge, divide, and so on and so on. So things happen. So that's why you need to keep on evolving and keep on improving, and that's what makes you good actually and consistently perform. Okay, so each of those obviously is important on this chart, but we today talk about the step number three. So many of you potentially ask these questions. Okay, so do I need a separate RGM organization? In case you don't have it, how do I convince the organization that RGM team can bring value or is bringing value if you have a team in place? How do I convene? How will the RGM organization be involved in the key processes, and which processes it should be involved in? What are the guiding principles behind the RGM organization? What skills do I need to have, and where do I find the people to my team? Is it internally, externally? If it's internally, so where should I look? So we try to cover those points on the next charts. So Yeah, but before we go in there, Ruben, please tell us what are the typical problems that occur while implementing RGM?
Yeah, actually, Maciej was mentioning before that many companies, we know it has taken really long, right, to implement RGM, really. And yeah, there are many mistakes which can be done when trying to fulfill RGM journey. But in our experience, some of them are actually quite common. And yeah, and you see 5 of them on this page today. We will focus just on the last 2 because they are directly related to the topic we're covering today. So let's start with what we call limited lever optimization capabilities. Now, what do we mean here, really? Many things can happen here, but I will give you an illustrative example, which is probably not what people tend to think first when they think about this, which is that sometimes we experience, or relatively often actually, we experience that teams responsible for delivering revenue optimization plans, they actually lack the necessary commercial acumen to truly make it happen. The problem basically is that because they have no or maybe limited commercial experience, you can see they struggle to identify and to incorporate all commercially relevant implications to their analysis and thinking. Yeah, it's not about analytical skills, it's just what to look at and what to take into account. As a result, as you would imagine, it becomes difficult for them to turn those analysis into actionable commercial initiatives. And as you would also imagine, yeah, because of that, yeah, this weakens their credibility in front of commercial teams. And at the end, no surprise, nothing or little happens, or very slowly. Yeah. So this is a very typical mistake. Another one has to do with this lack of cross-functional approach, and here this has not always, but very often has to do actually with the fact that RGM is initiated within a company thanks to the strong sponsorship by someone in a given function, typically finance or sales. And now, the good thing about this, and the very good thing about this, is that it creates a strong initial momentum, for sure. But then moving forward, yeah, very often, companies fail in turning RGM into a truly cross-functional approach because it is seen as something which is done by that function which initiated it. Yeah. And as we are seeing today, we will talk about it more, to create value in a sustained way, which is what we're talking all the time, yeah, embedding the RGM approach on an ongoing basis, you need different functions to embrace and support the RGM approach. Yeah. Now, Maciej, because this is so relevant, could you further elaborate on this critical aspect of the cross-functionality?
Yes. Good. Okay, so fortunately we have a slide on this as well. So here we go. Okay, so well said, Ruben. Okay, so here is, that's also what we often see. The team, the RGM team is set up. However, its place on earth, it's actually not well defined. And maybe initially it doesn't even deliver on the expectations, or you feel that there is much more potential to gain. That is, however, we think it's a good start because at least it shows that there is a commitment and you try it out. And then it shows you what you want to have and maybe also what you don't want to have. So please don't be discouraged if this happens to you. So what you should consider when you set up an organization, there are 2 things. So on the left-hand side, you have a stakeholder mapping. So you need to clarify how this RGM group will interact with the key stakeholders within the organization, which is, it could be locally, or it could be regionally, or it could be globally, so with headquarters, but also how will this interact within, internally and externally. So who are the key working partners? How will the relation and interaction look? Who is the giver and who is the recipient? Who is in a driver's seat and who is a co-pilot or a passenger? All these questions need to be considered and answered when you set up such a team. So step number 2, which is on the right-hand side, you need to make sure that to clarify how this team or group of people will interact in certain processes in the organization. So here is a short list of the processes. It could be many more than those, but there is a strategy planning, annual planning, commercial planning, new product development, S&OP, so strategy, sales and operation meeting, and then there could be some other processes. So for example, if you take an example, so let's take from real life. Let's say you take a pricing window as a process, so pricing revision in the company. So here is a case which we actually have seen, but this is actually quite common. So today a company X does a pricing process which is led by marketing, and this is done together with sales. So it's a typical situation many companies. When RGM is established, so basically there are not many changes to the process. I mean, RGM is on the side doing different analysis. It's bringing insights. They do some pilots and small projects and so on and so forth. And everyone likes what they're doing. However, the RGM team is not really integrated into the pricing process. So the pricing process is still run by the marketing together with sales. And then the RGM team is actually simply presented with the results, just you could say for approval, but anyway, there's nothing really, no value added to the process, because that's how they've always done, and that's what is happening. So obviously in this situation, you have missed opportunities, because you have a team which is very capable, and you have a team which could deliver a lot of value by using the tools, so elasticities and so on and so forth, which is available in the toolbox, but it's not really used. So what this means basically is that you don't simply take your RGM team and plug it in the process on the other hand, because in our example, they keep it outside, but in other case, you could just simply plug it in, so it's just additional passenger on the train, and it's just additional stakeholder to align with. I mean, this is not good either. So if you have a situation like this, that you start setting up such an RGM team, you should review your processes and see how you actually improve them to integrate RGM. So RGM is playing an important part in that process. And actually, in many cases, in many companies, we see RGM team is actually facilitating or leading a pricing process. So this could be also an option for many companies, and that's sometimes what we recommend. Okay, good. So we go then further, Ruben.
Yeah, actually, probably many of you will be thinking, wow, this is complex, right? And yes, this setting up RGM is not necessarily a simple task, for sure not. However, there is one key aspect which we think can help us a lot when dealing with the challenge of designing what we call a fit-for-purpose organization. It has to do with the fact that actually there are two quite distinct but coordinated focus areas in revenue growth management. The first of those areas has to do with what we call setting value creation, direction, and plans, which is what you have on the left side of this slide. The second area, distinct area, has to do with what we call keeping the business to those plans. Yeah. Now let's elaborate a little bit more on that. The first focus area on the left, yeah, deals with things like providing input to the company value growth vision we talked about earlier. Yeah. Most likely, RGM will not lead this initiative. This is a company initiative, but it will be expected for sure to provide key input and point of view to it. Yeah. A second very relevant part of the agenda here is to lead the development of what we call the heart of RGM, so the pack price, pricing, promo mix, trade terms optimization initiatives. Yeah. Both at strategic but also at tactical levels. Yeah. So this is basically the RGM area, which deals with what most people have in mind when talking about RGM. Okay. Now, building on the previous two, this area of RGM also sets what we call here high-level targets for the net revenue growth algorithm. Now, what do we mean by net revenue growth algorithm? This is about defining how much of my revenue growth, yeah, is coming from volume, how much from net revenue per liter per kilogram. Yeah. And high level typically means at company level, at category, brand, sub-brand, maybe channel, sub-channel levels. But this is it. This net revenue growth target setting occurs primarily, yeah, during strat plan and AOP cycles. Yeah. But also in companies which have this process during what some companies call the quarterly commercial calendar build. Yeah. Okay, last but not least, yeah, in this area of focus, building RGM capability across the organization is also a fundamental part of the agenda here. Yeah, you would expect people working in this area of RGM to be the RGM experts in the business and also the RGM champions, yeah, in your organization. Okay. Now the second area, the distinct but coordinated area, is what we have on the right, keeping the business to plan. Now here, this is fundamental, well, this area is fundamentally focused on providing the commercial controlling support needed to make things happen. Yeah. Consequently, here you deal with things like cascading down the high-level net revenue growth algorithm targets we talked before, down to more granular levels. Yeah. But also securing that bottom-up commercial plans and budgets are consistent with those targets. Yeah. As you would expect, this area is also focused on providing RGM fit-for-purpose reporting and tracking tools, plus ensuring that those are properly used to secure proper value creation governance. Yeah. And finally, as you would imagine too, this focus area of RGM is typically in charge of providing trade spend execution controlling, very important in the area of trade spend. Yeah. Okay, so now at this stage you may think, okay, Ruben, got it to this thing, but coordinated RGM focus areas, fine, but still, what is the optimal org design to deliver? Can you tell us something about it? Well, let's speak about this a little bit more. Now, as we would imagine, I mean, we would really love to have a simple answer to that question. But unfortunately, the reality is that there is no one size fits all. And this means that the best choice for you specifically will depend on many, many factors, really. Now, we're talking, just to give you a few examples, we're talking about things like the size of the business, yeah, the degree of business complexity, very important, but last and not least, the starting point and the degree of transformation expected from the business during your RGM journey, obviously, right? Just to mention a few again. Actually, what you see on the slide, you can see a few examples of typical solutions in terms of RGM org designs, which are actually quite different if you look at the details, right? If you look at the details, they're quite different. However, they all have a few key principles in common, which we strongly believe should always be met regardless of the details of the organization. Now, what are those principles? If you look at the different examples we show here, in all cases, the RGM leadership position reports into market leadership positions. Now, as we already mentioned, typically starting an RGM journey has a relevant change management, yeah, and even transformational component. So sponsorship within the market leadership team is often, if not always, critical. Yeah. The second key principle, which is fulfilled by all of those different examples, is that you have, and this links with what we were talking before just a few minutes ago, you have distinct and dedicated net revenue optimization and net revenue planning teams. Yeah, distinct and dedicated teams to the two focus areas we were talking about. And finally, this cannot be seen here. We mentioned it in the slides, and the detail is that FTEs, this is also important, don't need to be always incremental. Yeah, as mentioned before, RGM is not a new function. It's not a new function. It's an approach to running your business a cross-functional approach, yeah, to running your business for sustained value creation. Therefore, very often, redefining job descriptions of existing positions is more than enough. Of course, sometimes you need to create new positions, and actually, very often what happens is that you end up with a mix, or a combination of both things. Okay, good. So, very different executions, but a few key principles which we think should always be met in terms of the org design. Now, once you have your org design finished, whatever is the best in the details for you, the next challenge obviously is to secure, that people, that people filling those RGM positions have the right skills to drive the RGM agenda. Okay. Therefore, now Maciej, could you please tell us a little bit more about that, about the skill sets of people who are driving an RGM agenda.
Yes, and we have actually a pretty clear view about this topic. So about what is needed, and this is based on our experience. So this one is a little bit less one size fits all, because this is actually one size fits all in a way, you could say, because these are the skills, mindsets that you actually need in the team. And we'll talk a little bit about it, but yeah, you don't need to get stressed about it. But I think at least it's good to know where you should end up with, and even though the starting point could be quite low. Okay, good. So we mentioned it because, I mean, this is based on our experience, because we've been responsible for building RGM teams in our corporations. So in Coca-Cola, in Anora, in Carlsberg for me, and Anora, and then and Ruben was in obviously PepsiCo. But we also help our clients to build the teams and upgrade the teams. So this is quite a typical also help that we're doing. And we often ask about, okay, so what are the skills and mindsets that are needed for such a function? And we help often with defining the job descriptions and writing actually job description as well. But we distinguish them into 3 areas. So there is a mindset, you see there on top. There is the soft skills and the hard skills. So you could say that all of those mindset, soft skills, and hard skills are needed in the RGM department, RGM team. It doesn't need to be a department, but RGM team, let's say, a group of people. But you need to have all of those skills one way or the other in the members of those people. But obviously, the head of RGM team will have to be a bit more strategic, because has to think long term. And then RGM specialists have to be a bit stronger on maybe the hard skills. So you could say the weight of those skills will be slightly different, but anyway, all of them needs to be in place. So if we start from the bottom as a base, so what goes under the hard skills, because it's quite important to have those in place. So you need to have people who can do basic analytics, and you might get surprised actually to hear that. But we don't need AI scientists or data scientists or Excel wizards or Power BI magicians. So it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be there, but it's not a prerequisite. It's not absolutely needed to have this in the RGM team. You need to have these skills in your organization as such, but not necessarily within organization, or at least have possibility to buy it from outside. But you don't need to have that in RGM team, and definitely not all of the team members. So linking to this, you need to have people who can do the analysis, but most importantly, actually can turn the analysis of data into insights, and insights into recommendations, and then help in implementing this as well. So this is quite important. This team is going to act as what we call myth busters, because in most of the organizations that we met and we worked, there are always some myths, there are some legends, there are some old truths which needs to be challenged. So this team there is to do that based on the facts, based on data. Now, hard skills will never be enough and will not work if you have only hard skills in your team. You need to have soft skills, because you work with people, because business is about people. Of course, it's about number, but it's about people. And this team has to cooperate with people who are maybe less skilled, less strategic, or maybe less number people. So that's why you need to have soft approach as well. So you need to have a certain level of leadership and certain level of change management and patience. You need to be patient as well, which is not here on the list. Okay, good. So the last one, which is the mindset. What do you have there? People in your team need to have a strategic view, because execution obviously is very important. You could say is the most important, that you can actually execute what you come with, no question about it. But at the same time, execution without strategy is basically pointless, because then you execute something which maybe long term doesn't make sense. So that's why it's important that you have a little bit strategic view there as well. Then people there needs to be value focused, because we preach that value is always above volume, at least in the mid and long term. Sometimes volume short term, of course, is needed for certain things, but generally speaking, mid and long term value approach is definitely preferred. And also this team needs to believe that the growth is actually possible. So you also need to, because this team is also need to ignite the people, look for opportunities. So then those people in the team have to have this mindset that actually there is always a possibility to grow. We just need to find it, and then go for it. Then also what is critical, that they have internal perspective as well as external view. So for example, just internal perspective. So if you have in your team people who, let's say, just focus on who like to do just, let's say, complexity reduction, so which is production for supply chain driven project, which is complexity reduction, and this is the most important thing. Unfortunately, this will not work in the long run. At the same time, if you have people who look only after customers and want to please the customers and don't look at the P&Ls, this will not work either. So you need to have those two perspectives always. So one or the other, just one or the other will not work. And then as Ruben mentioned, we mentioned many times cross-functionality. Because RGM is never ever it's a one-man show. I mean, it's because it's not RGM team who is actually going then to negotiate price increases with the customers, and it's not RGM team who's going to discuss with the customers new listings or change the listings with the customers, and so on and so forth. So that's why this team needs to have a mindset of cross-functionality and teamwork, working together. Okay, very good. So this was briefly about that. So now we have a little poll we'd like to ask you. So out of those, from the pyramids, you have the mindset, soft skills, and hard skills. We made it simple, so only 3 to choose from. So which of those is the most important skill for your revenue growth management team? So let's say that you have a revenue growth management team, or if you don't have it, then you think assume that you want to set it up in an organization. So you think about, okay, what will be the one which will be the most important in the coming years, in the coming months, to develop? So what is the opportunity or development or challenge at this moment? Is it the mindset? Is more kind of strategic thinking, as we mentioned, value thinking, cross-functional? Is it the soft skills, so more change management, leadership? Or it's hard skills, more kind of data focus? So which of those you think is the most important for you RGM team to develop in the coming months? Okay. Interesting. So Ruben, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, but this is showing shooting from the hip. No, I mean, people. I think it's change management. No, is really what is the what is. I mean, it's mindset and soft skills. No? It's not hard skills. Yeah. Those are the more important things. So everything which has to do with setting the agenda, driving change, creating vision, creating also a compelling story in order to drive things. So yeah, this is what I'm reading here.
Yeah, and this is also actually what we experience ourselves from being responsible for such teams, and that's also what we see when we work with our clients. Is that it's much easier to find people who have hard skills, as we mentioned, but it's more difficult than to find people with all the skills. But the good news is that actually that those soft skills and mindsets they can be developed by the good leaders. So via coaching, training, and so on and so forth. So this is good news actually. So there's a good starting point, hard skills, because that's what you need as a basis, you could say. Okay, very good. So we go further. So, Ruben, where to find it?
Yeah. Okay. Now, where to find the needed skills? As we have just seen, it is not easy, right, to find the required RGM skill set combined, at least in a single individual, right? Because it is complex. We're asking for a lot, actually. Now, this is especially true when you look for the skill set required for the RGM area of focus, which deals with effectively setting, value creation direction and plans. However, over the years, and this is building on Maciej's and my experience, obviously, we have observed that there are certain functions and roles, where the likelihood of finding the needed skill set for this RGM focus area on the left is higher than in other function roles. Now, in regard to this, and before we get into sharing our experience, we need to stress yeah, that we are going to share generic statements, yeah, based on our experience. But we often also find significant exceptions to them. Yeah, so take what we're going to say as generic statements with which have obviously exceptions. Now, what does our experience tell us? If we observe that typically category management and brand marketing positions are often the best places, yeah, to look for talent for the RGM focus area on the left, yeah, setting value creation direction and plan. However, sometimes, and in both cases, category management, brand marketing, some relevant gaps can be observed. Yeah? In the case of category management, the most common one is that limited financial analytical skills or financial acumen, right? In the case of brand marketing, the lack of commercial acumen, yeah, is often a relevant gap. Now, there are exceptions. Again, I would say actually, I know one for good, which is PepsiCo, yeah, is one of them for sure. But generally speaking, it is difficult to find, yeah, marketing profiles who have been in sales roles, yeah, e.g. key account manager or trade marketing as part of their career development plans, yeah. It is not easy. Now, this can be more or less relevant, actually, also, it has to be said, depending on how much of the value creation potential in your business is found on promotion or trade terms investment optimization, yeah? Because again, clients have a lot to say here too, right? Now, trade marketing roles, yeah, which is another, what about trade marketing? Well, trade marketing roles, they provide typically, I mean, almost always, I would say, the required commercial acumen. This is not the problem. But are often, and again, not always, yeah, very operational and execution focused. Now, as a result, yeah, we often see that people in those roles have significant gaps in terms of, yeah, the strategic mindset but also the analytical skills we are talking about, yeah. And this is then a major handicap when dealing with pack price architecture, price, promo mix, and trade terms optimization, yeah, at the strategic level, at the structural level. Okay. Now, finally, controlling roles. Controlling roles, yeah, okay, they typically provide certain key skills, such as, for sure, value growth focus. If you don't find value growth focus in controlling, where else? And obviously also analytical skills, you find those. Yeah. However, we often find gaps, in this case, in terms of the strategic mindset, the external view, looking outside of the business, right? And the commercial acumen. Yeah. Now, in the case of strategic mindset and external view, this is less likely to happen with more senior controlling positions or roles, right? And in regards to commercial acumen, this is less likely to happen with sales finance roles, which operate with a clear sales partner approach. Yeah. In those cases, it is less likely to happen. Now, here the continuous interaction, yeah, and support to and working together with the sales teams, yeah, typically provides a required commercial acumen for RGM. Yeah, enough. Yeah. Now, this is the complex one. For the other area, keeping the business plan, the things tend to be much easier. Yeah, and here you should typically find the required RGM skill set in controlling positions. Yeah, especially in sales finance roles. Yeah. Okay, so again, this is based on our experience. There can be many exceptions, but generally speaking, this is the way we see, yeah, where to find the skills and what bottlenecks you can also find in each of the cases. Okay, good. Now we have now shared a lot, I think, of information in a relatively short time. So we are coming now to the end, and we would like to just very quickly review what are the key takeouts. Yeah, we would like to take you to take with you. Okay, so the first one, yeah, it's about integrating. Yeah, so it's about making sure that if you have created RGM teams, as Maciej was explaining, they are really integrated in the operations. Yeah, give them some operational responsibilities. Don't have them doing whatever, yeah, in their own outside of the, let's say, the standard processes you have already in place. Okay.
Okay, so I'll just take it there because we are very short on time. So yeah, so integrate it, make it cross-functional, differentiate the roles to make sure that you have different roles within the teams, and then pick the right people to the job. We have a Q&As, but we don't have time for that, right?
So thank you both for that very interesting presentation on revenue growth management. We can't take Q&A, but I am pushing out the end of webinar poll for those who are tight on time. Please be sure to answer it before you leave the webinar. Let us know how we can improve our webinars. I want to remind everyone to keep an eye on our PACE channel on LinkedIn for our other webinars in this series. Sign up for our newsletter, and we'll let you know who else is speaking.